Welcome to the Growth Boss Podcast, where we seek out the secrets to high-performing campaigns from some of the smartest marketers in the world. I'm your host, Jared Smith. Today I have Ryan Sullivan with me, and he's going to teach us how to replace your marketing with a podcast in 90 days. Ryan is the founder of Podcast Principles, where he helps business owners use podcasts and videos to bring in leads and grow their businesses. Since 2020, his team has worked with over 2,000 clients, creating content that has reached more than 15 million views and 500,000 podcast downloads. He works with law firms, finance companies, and service businesses that want an easy and repeatable way to share their message. Ryan's team takes care of the editing, short clips, and posting, so business owners don't have to get into the weeds. His goal is to make content creation simple, fun, and effective. Ryan, thanks so much for being here today.
Oh, Jared, thank you so much, man. Very excited for this. I'm a fan, so let's see where it takes us.
Sounds good. So where does a business owner start if they want to use podcasting to replace their marketing in 90 days?
Yeah, so if you're a business owner and you want to use a podcast to replace your marketing, the first thing you're going to want to know is why. So that's where I would start. We could take that wherever you want to take it, but there's a lot of reasons to start a podcast. There's also a lot of reasons not to start a podcast. And like anything you do in life or business, if you put your all into it and actually dedicate yourself to it, it'll work. But that's really the only way it's going to work. A podcast can do a lot of things for you, but it's best if it's doing one thing really well. The analogy I always use, because I came from the automotive world, is, a race car is a race car. It's not going to also travel off-road, right? It's like, pick what you want this car to do. If you want it to go really fast, great, let's optimize it to go really fast. If you want it to drive off-road, okay, let's optimize it to drive off-road, but then it might not be as fast. So I think a lot of times when it comes to business owners and podcasting, I think they see other business owners that have big podcasts and go, oh, I need to do that. But those aren't really business owners. Those are influencers, right? Yep. And so that's why I start with that distinction. Is this a podcast for your business, or is this a podcast for you? And those are two very different podcasts. So that's where I start with everybody.
I love that. That's a great place to start. You've obviously walked through that with a number of clients over the years, thousands potentially, right? So what should it be? You know what I mean? Like, walk me as a business owner through that conversation, because I know for me, it's interesting. I wanted to do it because I wanted to engage in interesting discussions. I wanted to grow my influence. My goal wasn't to promote my own business. I haven't promoted my business. I think 99% of people have no idea what I actually do for a living that listen to this podcast. And I'm fine with that. I'm just here to have a good time, meet cool, interesting people, have really great discussions that I wouldn't normally have, break outside of my SEO bubble that I live in, and learn about things like podcasts or email marketing, LinkedIn, whatever it may be. So, I probably had a little bit of an unconventional why goal, which was just to grow my influence and have fun. But I think most people are like, no, actually, if it's not producing an ROI in 12 months, then maybe I'm not doing something right. So walk us through what that should look like, what that conversation should like, with the business owner.
Yeah, so I think let's start with the podcast is you, and you are the podcast, meaning whoever is on the podcast. Like in this case, Jared is the podcast, right? So there is no like podcast versus you. It's just you, right? Yeah. Same thing with a business. I always say I can't fix your marketing if I can't fix you, right? I can't fix your podcast if I can't fix you. So that's where we start, right? We start with why am I doing it? Then that's a conversation. Then we go to, okay, we got through that. We realize it's the right fit. Podcasting is the medium. The results you expect matches the intention we put in. Okay, great. Now it's what type of podcast is best here, right? Yeah. And so in that case, if you're somebody like Jared who likes to learn from people, who is down to kind of take the back seat and have the guest maybe be more so the forefront of the podcast, then okay, maybe an interview podcast might be right for you. If you want to be the one asking the questions, right? In this case, like, of course you're putting in your 2 cents, but you're interviewing, right? So that's an interview podcast. Then we have what I find is like the hardest one, which is solo. That's where you just talk to the camera like a YouTube video. For some people, it's very easy. For some, it's hard. For some, it's in the middle. I suggest doing some of that no matter what, which we can talk about. But that's a brutal avenue. But hey, listen, you're the person on camera, so that you're the person that they're always coming back to watch, not just the guest. And then let's get to the one that I have fallen in love with because my clients have proved that it to be so successful, which is the best of all worlds in my opinion, which is co-hosted. So in that case, you have two hosts, right? One interviews the other, maybe they bring on a guest together, but really every week they're covering topics, they're going topic by topic, and then they'll have 5 episodes on one topic, and each time they cover a different angle, or they go deeper, or they go more broad. So that's one that in the last I'd say 2 to 3 years has become really popular. When I started this, it was all mostly interview. It was and which still happens today, right? You think podcast, you think Rogan, you think Tim Ferriss, you think interview, you think Call Her Daddy, you think interview. So, but podcasting now is very amorphous. It's audio, it's also YouTube, it's also on your TV, it's also on your phone, it's a little bit of everything. But yeah, those are really the 3 main formats. And listen, don't get me wrong, you could do a mix of all 3, and I've seen that work too.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the niches that we brought up in our intro was the legal industry. That happens to be an area I know a lot about. My background started an agency. Again, not a lot of people know this. Almost 20 years ago, SEO agency in the legal industry. I ended up selling that, but had over 100 clients. Would love to hear, if I was an attorney, what format you would pick for me. Again, I think legal is one of those things that not a lot of people would be like, oh yeah, I would think that's popular. I think it's a little bit out there. So curious, you have experience there more than likely. What kind of formats work for lawyers?
Yeah, so I'll caveat with this too. Our biggest podcast, downloads wise, is in the life insurance space. So if you think that any topic is off limits, the more quote unquote boring it is, the better it is. But at least amazing. That's our business. That's what we've been able to do, is really nail these niche podcasts. Back to your question, law firms, law firm owners, lawyers, people in the law industry, right? When it comes to that style, there's a few different types that I've seen work. The first one is a version of what I call a client interview, which is basically take all these people, imagine this, you do titles and you do maybe law for real estate, and then you maybe do, some family law, who knows, it could be a larger firm. In that case, you have a ton of clients. What you're doing is just bringing those clients, those real estate investors, those construction companies, those local businesses, and you're just bringing them on and interviewing them. Now, what you're really doing is turning into a marketing agency, and this is what we had happen. We had a law firm who had a title company, who had also a law firm, and who had a podcast, and they rolled it into a media company that's now a multiple full-time employees, an actual media agency, right? Wow. And we came in and did the initial strategy, and then they took it from there. So I'm not saying you should snowball it into a production company, but really what you're doing in that sense is goodwill, client success, and then just getting a ton of content, right, for you and for them. So that's good. And then the other version I've seen, which is essentially the polar opposite, is kind of law news mixed with cultural. So take topics that are happening in culture and then cover the law side of it. What's legal, what's illegal, what is uncovering court cases that people might talk about in the media, but, lay people don't understand them. Now, both of those podcasts that I just described, you can look them up. One is called Gossip Without Prejudice. That's the one that covers more of the topical. And then the Arena podcast, if you want to look up the one that kind of covers the client success. Now, both of these are successful. Both of these are still going today. But then Gossip Without Prejudice, they have gone viral, many times on TikTok because they cover these topics that people do talk about in culture, right? So 2 different podcasts, 2 different firms, 2 very different goals. One of them's more for recruiting internally. The other one's more for client success. So those are just 2 examples of you can have 1 million views, you can have 1,000 views. They're both successful. They're just both created for different reasons.
Yeah, I love that. I want to actually talk about this life insurance podcast, because that would be a topic. If you were to give me 100 topics and be like, which one do you think is the most popular? I'd probably put life insurance at the very bottom of that list. I mean, how many different ways can you talk about this? So, because again, I think you got the plumber listening to this podcast. You got such a wide array of business owners, and they're like, dude, you could never talk about toilets or whatever. So hopefully this will inspire a lot of people. So let's talk about life insurance. That's a phrase I never would have thought I would ever say on this podcast. So let's talk about that. What are these guys talking about?
Yeah. So, okay. So I'll give the context, which is important here. So this is a concept called infinite banking. So what this concept means is instead of using banks, you borrow against the cash value of your life insurance and use that money for things in your life so you don't have to pay a bank, right?
Okay.
Now, so this is a technique that, I'm not an agent, so don't quote me, but like almost, I wouldn't say almost all, but many life insurance policies that are just general policies, even whole life policies, you can actually do this with, but it's not something like your advisor or like your rep is going to really promote or tell you about, but just that's kind of the context there. I've become an informal expert because, we produce this podcast, but what they have done, the kind of lesson here, or what you can take away is they don't sell anything on the podcast or in any of the content at all. They never have sold. They treat it like it's really a skill set and a belief and a set of behaviors, right? So it's like, hey, we're not trying to give the banks our money. Okay, now what are our options? Well, we can use life insurance to do that, right? So it's 180 episodes about how to use life insurance for stuff you never thought you could use it for.
That's crazy.
So now take that and you're a plumber. You're never, ever going to sell, right? I have a friend who I went to high school with. Him and his dad and his brother, they run an electrical company. He's got 50, 100,000 followers. All he does is ask his dad questions. He goes, hey, Dad, I'm going to buy a company truck. Like, is that worth it? Hey, should I wear dirty clothes to the job or clean clothes? Hey, how did you install this panel? You're never going, hey, Ed's Plumbing, hire us. You're just showing you doing stuff. So now that's just content, right? Now when it comes to I'm a plumber and what's my podcast, well, now we can get into it. Now we have to figure that out. But I've had mold removal companies create podcasts to interview property managers. And then you interview 50 of them a year, and then 10 of them, are interested, and 5 of them become accounts. So it's a lot of back end. This is what everything I'm saying right now is strategy. All of this is done before you go in. So there's never an answer of like, oh yeah, you're an electrician, do this. You're a plumber, do that. You're a life insurance, do that. It's let's figure it out. Let's find out.
I love it. That's so creative. And again, I hope this is really inspiring a lot of people out there. If they're in a niche where they're like, I don't think anybody would be interested in this. I think TikTok has proven that you could go viral on pretty much any topic. So yeah, let's get that out of our mind. So assuming we pick our topic, we pick our format or a mix of formats. Ryan, what's the next step?
Yeah, so you pick your format, and this is assuming that you've tested them. So what I would advise just before we get into that is do some interviews, record them on Zoom. Just don't do anything with them. If you want to get them edited, fine, but you don't have to. Just see how it feels. Then do a co-hosted with somebody in your industry or a coworker or another plumbing company, or you're a plumber and do one with an electrician. I don't know, just find somebody. I don't know, ask your best friend. And then do one talking to the camera, right? So cool, now we got that. Great, so we did our tests. We kind of know, hey, this is the direction we're going to go. We know it's going to be a co-hosted show because I'm the front-end rainmaker and my general manager is the back-end ops guy. And so cool, let's come together, co-hosted. Great. Now what are we going to talk about? So we do this only for businesses. We don't work on cultural podcasts or, your buddy's NFL podcast. Have I done it? Yes. It's just not our expertise. So what we do is, to make life easier, is we match the podcast to what's called the buyer journey. So the buyer journey is how somebody goes from, I don't know you from John, to I'm interested in your services, right? So that is the journey that a customer takes from not knowing you to buying from you. We just take that journey and we figure out the types of content. So there's tactical, psychological, and philosophical, right? Those are the 3 content buckets. Those are the types of content you're going to create. And then you have the buyer journey, which is the top of the funnel, which is how we get people, the middle of the funnel, which is how we associate what you do with you solving their problem, and then the bottom of the funnel, which is how do we show them that we can help them with their problem and get them interested in us solving it. So those 3 things on each side, tactical, psychological, and philosophical, matched with top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel together Tell us what we're going to talk about in this podcast, because these are things that prospects are already asking, because we know, because we've been serving them for this long. And we know that if we're an SEO agency, the top of the funnel could literally just be, it could be as simple as, your last vacation that you went on and how incredible it is that you're a business owner and you're able to take time off. Or it could be how you got 1 million views on this one article after you changed 3 things. I don't know, Jared I'm not ready to hire him, but now after weeks and months, I go, oh, okay, so he knows this stuff. And now I'm down to Jared, I'm down to this guy and this guy. I'm down to 3 people who can solve my problem. And now which one am I going to hire? And you just want to be in that list. I mean, of course you want to be, the number one, and we could talk about that too. But yeah, you're matching your podcast strategy, the topics, to the journey your buyer takes. So then the podcast is the answer to their questions.
And they've already established some sort of relationship with me, A. And B, let's assume they haven't. If I do this properly, and we'll talk about publishing shortly, I'm sure, but if you get it out on YouTube, I mean, I'm not sure about you, but I see these YouTube videos popping up all the time in different regular Google searches. So let's take the plumber as an example. I wouldn't be surprised if short form content is showing up for local plumber searches, or maybe even a long-term podcast episode where we're talking about fixing a toilet, whatever it may be. So if you're doing regular SEO, you're getting a website there, you got your podcast ranking, you got a couple videos, like you're going to look like the authority on your topic. Is that kind of the goal?
Yeah, that's one of the goals for sure. And, if you want to go into, public speaking, or we have clients who are accountants who also help accountants start their own firm because, they're so successful that now they can teach the thing. So that's another avenue, right? And the PR side and doing that. But when it comes to search specifically, we're talking like somebody Googles something and then your YouTube short is there or your video is there. For us, it would be how do podcasters make money? We'll appear for that one. How to hire an editing team? We'll appear for that one, right? So now this is done by me recording the content and then afterwards titling it in a certain way, packaging it in a certain way, so then it appears in that search result. Local is a little bit of a different game, of course, and more difficult in a lot of ways, but it does work for that too.
Okay, very good. I want to go back real quick. You were talking about topics. Again, I think people could get a little overwhelmed, like, okay, how do I come up with these topics? I would imagine you're just dropping this stuff into ChatGPT, right? Like, hey, here's, middle, bottom of the funnel, top of the funnel ideas, or is there another process that you're going through?
Yeah, so first I'm going to extract it from the founder. None of this, you don't want to start any of this really with ChatGPT when you don't have anything else, because then GPT is just going to give you what it thinks you want. So I'm not saying it doesn't work. I've done a whole podcast strategy in ChatGPT, but knowing how to do a podcast strategy to begin with, and then using ChatGPT to help me. So that's what you want to do. Now, what we do is we do a series of calls where we're doing almost like kind of like a founder interview in a sense, right? Where we're walking through that buyer journey and we're having the founder map out the buyer journey for us. And then we'll take that to ChatGPT with that transcription, with extensive prompts, and then it can map out that season of the podcast. So you're able to do that now. We've also done a lot of them by hand, and it works well that way too. But definitely AI can help you kind of like speed up a lot of the episode prep, strategy docs, what should the thumbnail look like, things like that. It helps for. But I always say, like, just have somebody who understands podcasts for business or YouTube for business, and then they'll be able to kind of help guide you with this strategy, and then AI can just help kind of speed it up and save time.
Yeah, I love it. And you mentioned you can have your entire season kind of planned out for you. Again, guys, this doesn't have to be rocket science. I love it. So Ryan, what's the next step after we get the season essentially lined up for us?
I love how linear this is. This is great. This is awesome. Normally it's all over the damn place. So no, this is good. So even I have to remember, okay, what are the different steps here? So we have that. And then what we're going to do is figure out logistics of recording now. So in our case, we have a thing called 7 questions. That's how we start to kind of tease why are you really doing this? Then we have have the NDF. It's called a niche down framework. That's how we extract those topics like we talked about. We'll also do the buyer journey in there too. So now we have the topics. Then when we're going to start designing this podcast, right? So remember, we need the name of the podcast. Normally that might not come. You might start recording before you even have the name. For the most part, we want to lock that in. But that's a mix of, do I use some kind of quip or like some kind of like play on words? Do I optimize the title for SEO? Like, is it a different title on YouTube than it is on Spotify and Apple? Like, that's where this conversation kind of starts. And then, hey, that influences really everything we're talking about now is branding, right? So the title, the colors, the fonts, the branding around the podcast, how do we want it to feel? How do we want it to look? Sonic branding, what type of music is going to be on here? Is it going to be fast? Is it going to be rock? Is it going to be hip hop? Is it going to be country? Like, who knows? What's that vibe we want? Then we have the intro and the description. Those are essentially the same thing. It just makes your life easier. Description is the written version. The intro is what you actually say in the intro of the podcast. The outro, and then so those are all the beginning logistics. That's everything we kind of get done before we get in the studio or like we're doing here, virtual studio in a sense. So we're gonna have all that dialed in, and then we're gonna start talking about the first few episodes too, and kind of how those are going to look, strategy for those. And then the thing that I always advise is do an episode 0. This is an episode where you just go like, who am I? Why should you care about this? Who is this for? What can you expect from it? Right? I'm not saying you could just jump in too. That's fine. Especially if you already have an audience, and it's a little bit easier to just kind of like go. But in episode 0 is nice to kind of just lay that foundation. And it's an episode that listeners years from now can go back and kind of familiarize themselves with the podcast if they're new.
Love it. Ryan, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So you just heard my intro and the intro I had for the podcast, but also the intro for you. Was there maybe one thing that you would pull out of it and be like, hey, I'm not sure about that. I would tweak maybe that either with the intro that I gave for you or the one I gave for the podcast.
Do you want a professional opinion or a personal opinion?
Let's do both.
Okay, so, the professional opinion is really boring, which is just like, I need more context, right? I need to see the editing. I need to see how it's coming out, all that stuff. Personal opinion, I hate intros, personally. I have clients who love it. We do like the Stephen Bartlett style teaser where there's like a mic drop and, and like my editors are like the best. I just watched one today and I was dying laughing. It was funny. It was dramatic. People love that. I skip every intro. So, like, for example, if I come to, like, a Tim Ferriss podcast, right? I'm going all the way to 7 minutes.
Yeah,
which is freaking insane. But, like,
fair enough.
So, I love just to roll in. You know what I'm saying? Now, is that going to get a random person from YouTube to watch more? No, it's not. Right? So now this is a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
So, but a podcast intro versus a YouTube intro, probably different, right? So that's where we're getting into. Now we're blending a little bit of both, but like professionally, it's like, oh, I need to just look at everything and make sure that, typically if it's a guest, in my case, like people who know me, but the world doesn't. So I'm just kind of a random guy. So yeah, we're probably going to want a little bit of context, right? As to who this guy actually is. But then on the other hand, like if you're already a show that's established or you already have a big audience or a following, you can probably ditch the fanfare. You don't need to sell them on the episode. And yeah, if you get like, I did once, somebody like Rob Dyrdek on my podcast, it's like, I don't need to tell you who he is mostly.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of it depends at the end of the day too,
Okay. That's fair. How would you do it differently on YouTube versus a traditional podcast? Would you go a little bit over the top with graphics and emotion and a stronger intro there?
There's a few sides to this. There's one side that's really the numbers showing us that people primarily watch YouTube podcasts on TVs now. So maybe you want to optimize it for that. Now, what does optimizing for that look like? Well, we could talk about it. But so there's that number. And then I think really the reality is I don't think people really watch podcasts all the way, maybe 55 minutes on YouTube. Like some of them do, but what's the percentage? So do you have a better bet cutting it up into 5 to 10 minute segments, titling and thumbnailing them very specifically, and then doing that once or twice a week? I'd say that's just it's just an easier way for people to consume it. But at the same time, if you're sending people to the long form video, then I still think it's good to have that, right? So I think it's just a mix of everything. There's like long form. Hey, it's an hour long podcast. It kind of like, we could try to sell them with like some incredible teaser as much as we want, but it's still an hour long. What are other things we can do? Well, we could cut short moments out of it. That's what I would call medium form. And then we also have YouTube shorts, right? So, and then that YouTube short, which is a 1 to 3 minute or 0 to 3 minute video clip, can actually link directly to that longer episode, right? So that can be another way. Those medium form clips can link directly to the longer episode, right? So I think it's a lot of like handing out a ton of appetizers, and like some people are going to stay for the meal.
Yeah. And I would imagine, again, especially as you're getting started, you want to try as many different things, just like you want to try different formats and see what works for you, see what people respond to. For me, this is a long-term play. This is a long-term game. I want to do something that's going to be fun and exciting for me for a long time, and other people need to find that for themselves too. So I would imagine that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't keep doing it, then what I say is this. I've been doing this for a little while now. I've never taught podcasting. Nobody can teach you that. That you learn on your own. I just help with everything else. So
sure.
Podcasting, it's a skill set. It's day trading. It's marketing. It's fixing cars. It's a skill set. So the more you do it, the better you get at it. But if you don't, to your point, like if you do not enjoy it, like you will not be successful, because you won't be able to go long enough to really see the, benefits of it, because it's a long game. Like the number one lever in podcasting is time. There's nothing else that works better, compounds better than time when it comes to this medium.
And how long does it generally take for a podcast to begin seeing fruit?
Yeah, so I'll give you the example. I'll just give you an example. So like Wealth Warehouse, that life insurance podcast that I mentioned, right? First 6 months, I think they had like between 500 and 1,000 downloads. Like now we have now for clients to do 500 downloads in the first week is like pretty normal now, because we know how to do that. Back then we didn't. This was like the third or fourth show we ever worked on. Now 6 to 12 months, they're at like 10,000. 12 to 24, 50,000. 24 to 48, 75. They're at 140,000 downloads now. 4 years later, 180 episodes. 5,000 listeners, 3,000 downloads a month, So if they would have looked in that first 6 months, listen, if I would have looked and been like, oh, yeah, guys, keep going. But, like we're let's just keep going and see. I don't know, but they had the faith. We had the faith because we did the strategy, and they didn't question it. They did not question it at all. They just kept going, and they said, we're just going to keep going, and so they had a military background too. Of course, that helps, with that kind of discipline. It's a very disciplined, heavy game. But yeah, it can be very fast. It can be very slow. It literally depends, but it's a lot of what do you already have, like audience wise, and then what do you have the appetite? Like, can you get 100 short form clips before you launch? And then you have like a campaign that you run for the first 60 days. Okay, you're going to get more. Mm-hmm. Or you're like, no, I'm good. Like I just do this to give my clients something to listen to. And if I get 50 downloads, I'm happy. Well, then you got results immediately. Yeah. It used to be like, I'm really creating this for my prospects. Now more of my clients listen to the podcast. Yeah. And that's a win for me, Yeah. So.
Absolutely. I love it. Okay. So once we've nailed down kind of the strategy for all the nuances of the podcast, is the next step to kind of start shooting and editing, or where do we go from there?
Yeah, so now we're going to start recording. You want to batch, meaning do as many episodes in a short amount of time as you can without sacrificing the quality. We've done a season in a week. We've done a season in a month. We've done a season in 3 months. Season means about 12. It's kind of like a TV show or, songs in an album. So I could look at it like that. It's like making an album. It's like making a TV season. It's like, okay, 8 to 12 is kind of your number. And then so plan that, like just plan what time period you're going to allot to do that many episodes, right? And here's the thing. No pressure here. This is the good thing. It's a podcast. I don't know if I curse on this podcast, but it's a podcast, okay? It's not that big of a deal. And I do this for a living, so I should be telling you how big of a deal it is. Yeah. But it's really not, right? When you sit down at the dinner table, you don't really talk about, You're not arguing with your spouse typically about your podcast. It's about bigger things, right? So meaning it's going to be great. Yes. Right. But it's like working out. It's an hour of your day. It's not your entire life. Right. So treat it like that. Don't overdo it. It's more, the work works on you more than you work on it type of thing. And so just plan out those episodes, then plan out the who, right? It's who, not how. This is what my clients have taught me. They're like, that's why we hired you guys, right? We're not going to edit this damn thing. We're not editors, right? We're life insurance people, right? That's what we do, right? So have your who, have your team, right? Who is that? Your options, virtual assistant. You can turn them into a podcast producer. Pros and cons. Podcast producer, pros and cons. Hire an agency, pros and cons, right? You want to edit some and then piecemeal it. Some people edit, some you edit, right? That's another option, right? There's a lot of options here. All of that. The nice thing is working with somebody who knows how to do this stuff. They'll help you decide all these things. You want to have all these kind of decisions pre-decided. So then when you start to hit record, the only thing you're focusing on is hitting record and just recording the episode, right? Because if you're worried about like editing, and then we're gonna find an audio guy, and then my cousin said he'll do it, and but he's kind of like not that reliable, and so that's normally what happens. So like just make all these decisions ahead of time, or just try to, and then just run it, man. Just see what happens. Just go and record them. Some of them are going to be great. Some of them are going to suck. Some of your guests aren't going to show up. Some guests are going to be the ones you thought were going to be good are going to be terrible. The ones you thought were going to be terrible are going to be great. And then after like 6 months, everybody wants to be on your podcast, and you have too many guests. So, but yeah, there's a lot of decisions to make in the meantime. Try to make as many as you can. It's like a wedding. The wedding day comes. You might not have it all figured out, but listen, everybody's here and we're ready,
Exactly. 100%. I love that. I love that attitude as well. So 12 episodes, is this a 12-week program, kind of a once a week cadence, or what kind of cadence do you generally recommend for your clients?
So for a podcast where you're asking people to listen like consecutively, right? It's not like, oh, I'm just doing this as a series of one-offs, right? Yep. Which is fine. You can do it that way too. But if you are asking people to listen and then come back again to listen, I find the weekly cadence makes the most sense. Because listen, not everybody's going to listen every week, most likely, but you give them stuff to catch up on. You give them something every week if they did skip a couple, right? You also can build in an arc where you kind of take them through a journey if you do it weekly, and they're kind of just riding with you, right? They're kind of there with you. So I just find weekly is kind of like the average if you want this, if you're going to kind of dedicate yourself to it and really do it. But I'm not opposed to bi-weekly, or in seasons is fine too. Drop a season, wait a little bit. TV shows have been doing it for a long time. So I'm a little bit agnostic to that, but I think, I do weekly. My most successful clients do weekly. The people who make the most money from the podcast do weekly. The people with the most views do weekly. So I could just kind of use those numbers,
Something to be said there about that.
Yeah. Can infer.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. What else does the average business owner need to know if they want to have a successful podcast?
Mistakes. So we covered one of them, which was, hey, I see somebody else doing this.
Yeah.
So if I said to you, Jared, hey, man, I'm going to start a podcast. Okay. It's going to be about 2 to 3 hours long. We're going to cover MMA. We're going to cover hunting. We're going to cover a little bit of politics. I'm going to wear a t-shirt. I'm going to shave my head.
Yeah.
Now, would that ring any bells to you?
Well, it obviously does, but if you're asking me if I thought that would be popular, no, I don't think I would have put a whole lot of money on that.
And why is that?
Totally random. But what it does show is...
there's also a guy who has a podcast.
Yeah, Joe.
But this is what people do.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not even kidding. It's just, this is what I did in the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I'm Joe Rogan, man. Like, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying the energy is good. It's good to have the enthusiasm. It's been done.
Yeah.
Okay. So emulate, right? Copy like an artist, right? That's always what they say. But take a format that works somewhere and just hasn't been done in your niche yet.
Love
right?
that.
So that's what we try to do. Like there was other podcasts about this life insurance concept, but they hadn't been done with like co-hosted, 2 people who do it And then we're just going to walk you through basically just like every episode is another option on how to leverage this, right? Like it wasn't a 90% pivot from the rest of the market. It was like a 30% pivot, you know? So you just have to be a little bit different, you know, and that's what I'll say there. And then we have, you know, money. Money is a big one, meaning how do we make money from this thing? You know, I see it, I use it as a marketing expense. Like I can tell you exactly how much we spend on the podcast every year. I can tell you exactly what our customer acquisition cost is. I can tell you exactly what we spend on marketing and then what that customer acquisition cost of lifetime value is. And now that's my job to know those numbers. So that's why I know them and I know them for our clients, right? But then it becomes very easy. Top line revenue, marketing spend for the year, how much we spent on the podcast. If your top line revenue doesn't go up, but your podcast spend goes up, and that's been going on for 5 years, okay, maybe the podcast isn't working. So it's a really easy way to know is just go year by year. So that's another one. And then the last one I would say is like, for some reason, people are obsessed with sponsorships. I think it's kind of just been like, you've just been hit with so many BetterHelp and 8 Sleep and, you know, so many ads that you're like, okay, podcast equals Joe Rogan equals get sponsors. And okay, then I'm famous. And that's kind of how it works. My thing is, here's the thing. You are selling to these people on listening to you. They're just not giving you money. They're giving you time, which is more valuable than money. So if you already are selling them on that, so technically you're selling a service, right? So you are the sponsor. Why don't you just be the sponsor?
Right.
Podcast is just a free service tier. Some people even charge for it. Just go up one level. Just go podcast. All right, Patreon, merch, you know, consulting. I don't know. You know, you just keep going. If you're going to put all this time, money, and energy into a podcast, just sell your own stuff, right? So that's what I typically will do. And what I'll say is like, I normally don't turn your podcast into a business, though I can help with that. I typically turn businesses into podcasts to bring them more business. But if you are going to put all this time in, you know, and especially if you already have a business, then, you know, be your own sponsor, use it to grow your business because you're already putting so much energy in there and you're already selling somebody and asking them to trade them their time, you know, in exchange. So those are a few of the big ones that just like always come up and I try to just squash them right away.
I love it. And what sort of ROI should I be expecting if I'm diving into this? Going to put, you know, a year. I would recommend most people at least, you know, plan on doing this for a year to get any sort of benefit out of it. As a business owner, what should I be expecting?
Yeah, so I'll kind of frame it like this, right? So if you hire, let's just look at alternatives, right? If you hire a marketing agency, what are they going to tell you to do? They're going to tell you, do some long form. Do some text, right? Maybe do some SEO. Do some social media. Post on social media. Oh, videos are really going. So post some videos. Okay, guess what? You don't have to spend waste $60,000 talking to them.
Right.
Just do it yourself. 4 podcast episodes a month, an average of 5 clips per episode. That gets you 1 video clip a day, 5 days a week, and then 1 social media post per day. It's called the 4-5-1. So 4 podcast episodes a month, average of 5 clips per episode, 1 social post per day. The 4 podcast episodes a month, that's our awareness, right? Because those are the source, right? That's how we know. That's the center of the universe for the marketing, right? If we do those, we have everything else.
Yep.
The 5 clips, that's connection, right? That's people seeing you do stuff and talking about it, right? And then we have conversion, which is the social posts per day. Of course, you still have DMs and you still have email lists and things like that. But now you've basically replaced a marketing agency. You've done everything they were going to tell you to do anyway.
Yeah.
And then after 6 months, they're going to say, "Hey, just wait a little longer, and then we'll get the results." You don't even have to do that. You can just own it. Like when I leave a client or they leave me, it's because they just own and run the system now. There's nothing else for me to do, and I go like this, and then it's great. We got the case study. Nice. Now I can go help somebody else. It's not a retain you and keep you, right? If you run somebody else's system, you're renting their system. I say own your system.
Yes.
And you're going to invest time, money, effort to hire somebody anyway who might suck. You might as well do it to basically hire yourself.
Yeah.
And so the question is, what's the ROI? Okay, it depends. But this is the mindset that gets you the ROI.
Love it. I think that's a perfect pausing point right there. Ryan, this has been awesome. Really appreciate your time. What's the best way for people to connect with you if they want to do so?
Yeah, so thank you for having me, first of all. A lot of fun. Love talking about podcasts. So you're a great interviewer. I just want to say that.
Appreciate it.
Done a couple of podcasts. So yeah, so I'm online. I'm everywhere, all platforms. But if you just do Ryan R. Sullivan, that's why I put the R. There's a lot of Ryan Sullivans out there. I'm trying. I actually am on page 2 for the name Ryan Sullivan, though, of Google.
Okay.
That's taken me 10 years. So,
Moving up.
But if you do Ryan R. Sullivan, Google that, everything will come up. LinkedIn's my main platform. Our system is LinkedIn, podcast, YouTube, email. That's how we run all your marketing. Mostly service-based businesses, professional services, law firms, finance and coaching is kind of our jam. And then I have a YouTube channel and a podcast. Super creative name, Ryan R. Sullivan. Just look that up.
There you go.
Ryan Sullivan Show as well. And that's the podcast and the YouTube. And every single week is just this. It's just training. This will probably be on there if Jared lets me put it on there.
Of course.
So this is what I release. Everything's out there. It's all out there. You could take it, take the advice, run with it.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it.